What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, in today's video, we are at Fraction Mining's containing farm in southern Texas. What is going on, guys? So I am here from Alex with Fraction Mining. How's it going, Alex?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. So we're down here in Texas at their container mining farm. So Alex, tell me a little bit about this facility. What kind of megawatts are we running? What are you guys kind of hashing here?
Yeah, so we've got this, our portion of the site here is about 5 megawatts.
Okay.
So predominantly, as you could tell a little bit, it's a lot of wind around here.
It's awesome. So, the wind turbines, you see them everywhere.
So many. And even on the 30-minute drive here, it's just like wind turbine, wind turbine, wind
We're in the middle of nowhere, by the way. I just want to put it out there.
Just a little bit. And so most of what we've got here is Bitcoin.
Okay.
We've got some Kadena mining. We've got Litecoin mining from some clients. And then we recently launched Kaspa mining, so we've got close to 100 terahash on Kaspa.
All right, Alex, so here at Fraction Mining's facility in Texas, what type of mining are you guys doing here? Because from our conversations, there's about 3 different types, right?
Yep. Yeah, so what we have right now is we have our client hosting. So we've got several clients, some larger clients with 200 miners plus at this facility, and then we've got people with just 1 or 2 miners as well. Most of those are Bitcoin, so a lot of clients come in, they want to buy a miner from us. We'll set them up with a deal, and then we'll get them hosted.
Oh, so you have the whole spiel of your purchase and also hosting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very smooth process. We're not very public about it because we have how we want to set things up. We want to get a good customer base. We want to get to know, like, hey, what are the things we can improve on before we really start publicly marketing it.
Well, tough luck, you're now on video talking about it.
Yeah, I know, right? So, but for now, especially with our limitation on 5 megawatts here, we really want to get to the next place, and we'll maybe talk about that later on as far as some of the other sites that we have.
Awesome.
But client hosting, we also have a bit of self-mining. Most of that is predominantly, we have some Bitcoin miners here.
Good for you guys.
And then we have, as far as fractional mining, where we're able to fractionalize the hash rate for those that are wanting to get into mining, whether that's Bitcoin, Kadena, or Kaspa, at a fractional cost. Obviously, a Kaspa ASIC, a very efficient one, costs $20,000. Not everyone has.
As a home miner, you're like, oh, that's
a car, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, not everyone has $20,000 for the most profitable Kaspa miner. So we're able to take the idea of fractionalizing that hash rate and ownership to individuals using the technology of an NFT. So that's the unique process. We've done that for Bitcoin. We've done it for Kadena. We just recently did that for Kaspa. So that's kind of like the third part of what we're doing.
All right, Alex, so you guys are running 2 different types of containers on your farm here. Can you tell us a little bit about each?
Sure. So behind me here, you've got the amp box. This is what was originally designed by Bitmain.
Okay.
So very, very simple. It's definitely on the cheaper side just because it doesn't come with exhaust fans.
Okay. So you're using natural pass-through with
natural
the ASICs.
Cooling. So what we're going to do is we're going to add fans on the back end. It's designed where you can have fans just for when Texas summers really do hit. You want to have that extra
Dude, it's hot. I came from Pennsylvania. It was 40 when I left yesterday morning. It's like 90 some out here today.
90 something, yeah. So that's the amp box. It's a 20-foot container, so it hosts about 209 miners or so. And then behind us, this is just an extra container, but we've got 2 over here called 1MW boxes. They're 40-footers, hold about 324 miners. So they're designed literally right at 1 megawatt worth of capacity of ASICs. So from a dollar cost standpoint, you really do go better with a 40-foot container just because of the footprint that it takes up, the amount of miners you can get in for having like 2 or 3 of these, especially when you consider transformers. So, because if you think about it, with something like a transformer, you're limited to so many megawatts and so many containers. So you have so much room inside the transformer. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it, but really do like the amp box. Once it gets fans on it, it's going to be perfect. Okay,
and did you guys start out with the 20-foot amp box? Is that kind of where you started and then moved into the 40, or what was your mindset?
Yeah, so we actually started with one back here very, very early on. We all actually call it custom made. We call it our crap container, but it was really a learning experience. It was our very first container we had out here. The design was a vortex V-shaped design.
Yep.
So the cooling aspect wasn't ideal for what we have here. We're going to ship that up to our Canada facility.
There you go.
But we started off there, kind of learned a few lessons, then moved up to the amp box, upgraded from there, and then now we're really at the big boy stage with the 1MWs.
All right, Alex, so you guys offer hosting here at Fraction Mining, and not just at this site, but at multiple sites. Tell me a little bit about that process. So I come to you guys, I either buy an ASIC, or I have a number of ASICs. What does that process look like for you guys? What's some of the offerings that you guys have?
Yeah, so for most of what we've done it predominantly in-house. We're not really all too promotional yet on what we offer as far as hosting, but for everything that we do in-house, predominantly most of our clients, miners, or almost all of them, are here in Texas. Now we have a Canada site, that's one major client specifically up there, and they're on a natural gas flare site, but all of our smaller clients are here in our Texas facility. So typically the process looks like for most of our clients is buying and hosting with Fraction. The reason is we know that's a new miner getting installed. We know we're not going to have 20 hardware errors when it gets shipped in. So from a smaller operation size where we are here, we want to make sure we don't have any of those issues.
I get it.
So for a lot of what we've done, we started with the S19 Pros. We're doing K Pros now, which I think are some of the best miners by Bitmain, much better than the XP. So we have some clients having purchased some of those. So what typically happens, the client reaches out to us, says, hey, I want to buy 1, 2, 3, 4 miners. If we have the room, we'll go ahead, buy it, it gets turned on, essentially sometimes even that day if we have it in stock. So worst case scenario, it may take about a week, and then they're fully operational. So our rate here, depending on how many miners you're bringing in, is anywhere between 7 and 7.5 cents.
Okay, and what all does that entail from the customer side? So what does that get you?
Yeah, so that's management, that's everything. That gets you access to fiber. That also gets you access. We work and partner with Luxor firmware. So we're able to upgrade your device if you want to run on Luxor firmware.
Oh, nice.
We'll go ahead and install that firmware for you without cost. So there's kind of that bonuses. And then we also have on-site management. So we have a guy here repairing so if your miner goes down, you don't have to worry about it being a remote facility. No one around, and you may take a week to repair. So
yeah, guys, that's very cool. That not all farms have an on-site staff member. And I think that separates you guys quite a bit to have an actual operational manager on site managing day to day. I think that also allows you guys to turn up new customers faster, keep up with maintenance, things like that. It's not like you have to wait for somebody to fly on site, which is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So some of those perks that a client may not see right away, but when they need it, they have it.
All right, so we're in front of your 20-foot container. Let's talk through this unit here. So what all are we running inside of this unit right now?
So right now there's predominantly probably around 80 WhatsMiner M50s.
Wow, okay.
So we've got some WhatsMiners in here. We've got S19 Pro 110 terahash. Some of them running on Luxor firmware, a lot of them running on Luxor firmware. And then we have S19 J Pro Pluses, mostly 120 terahash. And then we got a new batch of S19K Pros. Super efficient, super effective.
Yeah, those aren't even those just launched not too long ago. So you guys are really running some of those newer ones there. So you have a decent amount of hash rate in there. So let's talk about your M50s. What made you go with those, and how long have you had those?
Yeah, so that was a lot of this is mostly clients who has these miners. So they wanted to go with the M50s predominantly because of some of the benefits that you have with WhatsMiner versus what you have with Bitmain. So stuff like repairs and stuff like that, you don't have as many repairs when it comes to WhatsMiner versus the likes of what you have with Bitmain. So there's pros and cons, but we also wanted to see how well do these perform in a little bit hotter climate. So for them, they like the WhatsMiners. I think the biggest thing is once we get fans on the outside of the container, it's going to cool a lot better, just like the 1MWs. The WhatsMiners work beautifully in there.
Awesome. So on the intake side of this, we have a number of filters.
Yep.
So you guys are using almost a push-pull because there's no exhaust fans on this here.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that push-pull setup.
Yeah, so on the front side of the container, you've got fans or filters that came with the container itself.
Okay.
Those are washable, air compressor.
Yep.
So you don't have to replace those, which is a nice thing because replacing filters gets expensive. So then on the back end, it's just like you said, it's just pulling that air out. So it makes it very important to have absolutely completely covered all your gaps, all your holes between the miners, because you want as much efficiency from the miners pulling that air through them.
Yep.
You don't want any of that air circulating back over top of the miners, overheating them. So we'll probably look at the back end of it, and you'll see how we've got a lot of that taped up, a lot of that.
Yeah, you have the foam board between everything, so you don't have anything kind of radiating back in, which is, I think, is really, really cool there. Yeah, it very much reminds me of like a wind tunnel setup, which is kind of, these containers are very similar to how I designed my sheds off of. Just pull air in, blow it out as fast as you can.
Exactly.
You guys primarily all ASICs, of course, so you know that kind of changes it quite a little bit there. So talking about power in here, how much electric do you think this container uses by itself?
So this is technically by Bitmain specs 768 kW. Okay. So it's about 3/4 of a megawatt is what this is spec'd out for. And if you think about 209 miners running at about 3,100 watts or so on average, it puts you right about there. So the power panel in here is very, for Bitmain, which I was surprised by, it's very intuitive. It has a lot of benefits from, protecting for oversurges. Has a lot of protective features, which is really one of the pros about something like the Bitmain amp box. But overall, power draw is just shy of 3/4 of a megawatt. Okay, and what about the PDUs in here? Are these the ones that came with the amp box, or what are you guys running? Yeah, so this is just literally a stock amp box. Okay. The PDUs work perfectly fine. Same thing with the network switches. I don't think we really had any issues. That's awesome. Coming from something like this. And the benefit is they're designed to run Bitmain machines. Yeah. So anything we've run Bitmain-wise is run perfectly in here. Yeah. Really not had any issues at all. Now, last thing I'll mention, you had mentioned about adding fans to this. Yeah. We're in Texas, it gets really hot. Is that a next step as like to keep these even cooler? Or what's the driving factor behind that? Yeah, so getting fans is just gonna help pull that heat out from behind the miners. Okay. So there's a numbers game to it, because you also don't want to pull too much where you're making the fans on the miners themselves work too hard. So there's a numbers part to it where you don't want when you're buying the fans, you want to make sure the CFM on the fans isn't too powerful where it's just destroying all the fans on the miners. So that essentially what we're going to do is just enough, because with each fan pulls, each miner I think has about 400 CFM, right? Yep. So you do all those calculations, making sure that you're running fans, exhaust fans, pulling the same amount that those push out. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this fractional mining, because it's definitely a little bit different, and it even has an NFT involved with it. So I'm a home miner. I want to get into mining. I can't afford to buy a full-size ASIC. Yeah. I can't run it at home because of the noise, the power. Sure. What option do you guys have with fraction mining? Yeah, and so kind of some of the points you made as far as some of the things that keep people from getting involved in mining in general, right? Yeah. Because I've been in situations, I've talked to people where they have 30-cent energy rates. They live in an apartment, they can't run it. Yeah. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, they don't have 240 volts. Yeah. So with all of those, some of the benefits that we have with fraction mining, the way that we thought about it, and kind of our slogan is crypto mining for anyone, anywhere, anytime. Okay. Because it allows anyone, anywhere, at any time to get involved into mining without all of those roadblocks and a lot of those parts that keep people from getting involved in the industry. So what essentially we've done, and we started this with Bitcoin first. Bitcoin was super successful. It's continuing to be successful for obvious reasons. And then we did it with Kadena, and we've recently done it with Kaspa. But we're able to pretty much take a miner and fractionalize the hash rate, not only the hash rate, but also the power consumption. And we're able to offer the energy rates that we're able to receive at our site. So the NFTs, our first batch of fractional hash rate was actually at 6 cents on the energy rate. All our future batches are at 6.5 cents. Okay. So comparatively speaking, unless you're yourself in, in Pennsylvania at 4 cents, right? Most people are residential rates 10 to 12 cents.
Okay.
So you're not going to be able to find the opportunity to be at 6.5 cents in most places. So, and for a lot of people from a financial standpoint, miners are still expensive, especially very profitable ones. You're talking about $2,000-$3,000. Not everyone has $2 or $3K, but someone may have $300 to get into a powerful miner that's also profitable, because you can get an S9 for cheap, but right now you're not making any money from it. You're losing money, right? So from an efficiency standpoint, we take all the pros, we fractionalize it and give you a fractional ownership, and the technology we use to do that is via NFT.
All right, so we're in front of the 1MW boxes here. These are the 40-foot containers. Tell me a little bit more about what we're running in these things, because these things are beasts.
Yeah, these are absolutely massive. As you can see, it's a whole wall of exhaust
it looks so
fans.
cool.
It does, especially when it's like all perfectly lined up. That took forever just to get a good, perfect lineup. So all of these are all 40-foot containers. There's 324 miners slotted that can be fit in here.
Wow.
So obviously,
that's a lot of power.
It's a lot. It is a lot. So technically, obviously, if you're running more efficient machines, you're still running at that limited slot capacity. So whether you're running S19 95 terahash or you're running XPs, you still have 324 slots. So with this, obviously you have the exhaust fans, you've got the intake filters. One of the things that we kind of talked about before we started the video is we're getting awnings pre-designed, because these came with all of the water currents. We don't like those. They don't do well as far as blocking a lot of that air intake. So
I think you had said too, a lot of maintenance on those.
So cleaning those, maintaining it, having the water lines, there's a whole process to something like that. So for us, we're gonna get awnings. We're getting awnings custom built right now. Those are gonna get shipped down here. We're gonna just get those packaged up, and then what they'll have is those will be foldable. So if we do have a bad storm coming in, we can literally close up the entire container.
Awesome.
So that's gonna be super beneficial. And then inside of here, predominantly Bitcoin miners. We've got XPs in here, we've got J Pros in here, K Pros, 110 terahash. We've got some What's miners in here, predominantly M50s. We've got our Kaspa ASICs in here as well. We've got Kadena.
Those are the KS3s and the KA3s.
KA3s.
Wow.
That's pretty much mostly it. There's a couple of one-offs. We've got a K7 in here, an L7 in here. So a couple of one-offs.
And these are mostly mixed between self-mine, hosted, and the fractional mining as well.
Exactly. So that's predominantly both of these two containers, and like we mentioned, with the expansion on this site, we're going to have another container here and then 2 more on the other side. So,
how many containers do you think you guys can fit on this lot?
So we'll be able to have 2 more containers, because that will put us at the max of the 5 megawatts. So we're looking also on the amp box, because it's only 3/4 of a megawatt. We're looking at replacing that with a 1MW. So that way we get ourselves another 130 miners.
Yeah, to totally maximize it. I mean, these are fantastic. I mean, they look great inside. They're really well designed. So what made you go with the amp box versus these?
So obviously the amp box was one that we got due to the availability. When I went down to Texas, Houston specifically, there was probably 3-4 stories high of amp boxes.
Holy cow.
Bitmain had shipped in I don't know, it was like 100, 120
so
of them.
So they overproduced in the bull run.
Overproduced in the bull market. Bear market, it cost them $20,000 in tariffs to get them here. They were selling them for $20,000.
Oh, Jesus.
So you literally, a lot of them, if you got a bulk order, you're able to get those kind of prices on them. So that was the first one. These are a little bit more expensive. Depending on the deal that you get, we got a really good deal with a partner company of ours to get these here. So that's why it just made sense based on what you're looking at, $1 cost per slot. It made more sense to go with a 40-foot container versus a 20-footer.
Got it. And finally on these, we didn't talk about before, what does the maintenance look like in here day to day with these units?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it depends on if it's a brand new unit or it's a used one. So a lot of times we've had a client come in with a lot of used ones that just had a lot of cake dirt on there.
That's one way to put it.
After cleaning it, you still are going to have some issues. So it's a lot of replacing of intake fans. for that specific situation. But most of it is if it's all brand new miners, you don't have any issues, it's a fairly simple process. You don't have a whole lot of maintenance. The one thing you'll sometimes have is the exhaust fans on the outset for the container.
Yeah. Those
will sometimes have to, just over the course of time, get replaced.
Yep.
Or you do a motor repair, so you just rewind the motor. So other than that, there's just not a whole lot, unless you get a bunch of new used miners coming in, and you're gonna have a world of problems.
All right, so we talked a little bit about expansion here. What does that timeline look like for you guys? You have something on a roadmap for how long until you're filled here down in Texas?
Yeah, so one of our larger clients, he's going to be coming down with 2 more containers, predominantly 1MWs. So where you see this one here, we've got an extra container just for parts and stuff like that. We're going to drop 2 more containers on the other side of it. So that'll bring us to 4 1MWs in the amp box, pretty much filling us to capacity at this property. So we're going to have 5 megawatts here. You look at the number side of things, that's about 1,500 miners or so that we'll be managing at this property. Then our Canada site, we've got 1 megawatt there right now. It's a flared natural gas site, so that will be fully operational probably by early next week. And then we're right now, we talked a little bit when we were driving over here, or I guess last night, about another YouTuber, Torin. He's got a connection up in Canada for some more flare sites. So we're really interested in getting more into the natural gas, flare stranded gas sites in Canada. And then right now we're looking at a couple of properties in the US, predominantly on either hydro or a lot of wind, nuclear power in Midwest US and Pacific Coast.
All right, guys, so that is going to wrap things up here at Fraction Mining's Texas facility. They actually are going to put me to work. We got some work to do, some maintenance to do on some of these ASICs, so why not? I'm down here, I might as well help. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this, you guys want to learn more about Fraction Mining, I'll put links directly down below. Go check them out. If you guys enjoy these mining farm tours, go ahead and click that bell to be reminded when I drop my next video. Take care.